What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome in, Deep Threat Sports Network fans and race fans. Dave and I have talked to you guys before about how we're going to go ahead and broaden the horizons and become a sports network. And here we are kicking things off today with our NASCAR analyst. With me today, I have Josh Colbeck, Marty Y'all, two of the best in the business that I know. Plenty of attention to detail for these guys. These guys are the real deal here. I'm going to kick it over to Josh Colbeck. Go ahead and let him give himself an introduction and let you fans know what to expect from him on this show.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? My name's Josh. I'm here. I'm going to be doing some color commentary for everybody. A little bit about myself. I'm a big motorsports fan, big outdoors fan. The last 5, 6 years, I've really gotten more into NASCAR, gotten away from the drag strip NHRA stuff, and really gotten into more circle track, IndyCar, and stuff like that. So I've been putting my effort into learning the sports more, and I feel like I have a good opinion and grounding to give you guys some good information and my opinions along the way.
Yeah, Josh, we're happy to have you here. Love you doing this with us. Great at everything you do with this sport. Marty, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about you here?
Hey, race fans. My name's Marty. I've been a huge NASCAR fan since around 2000. I used to always watch it with my father. My father used to watch it all the time, maximum volume, irritating my mom. Didn't really understand it at first. I was a little kid kind of at that age. But I definitely, as time went on, became a huge NASCAR fan. I love all the statistics, all the finer details of NASCAR racing, any motorsport really, especially the driver, how the driver finds speed in the track, the footwork, all the finer details of it. I'm very an opinionated person. I'm not going to lie. I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm not somebody who's going to be bland or be PC in their takes necessarily. I'm not going to give you a vanilla take on anything. I'm going to be passionate about it. I'm going to be kind of in your face about some stuff. I'm sure people will not necessarily like my takes per se, but what can I say? I'm an opinionated person. I've always been kind of on the louder side, and I could be a little bit of a prick from time to time.
Hey, we welcome all that here at Deep Threat Sports Network. We love opinions. We love bold takes. We love doing this thing with all you fans out there. Marty, big fan of Denny Hamlin, right? Josh, you a Denny Hamlin guy too?
We're going there.
Crickets.
we're gonna go there right off the rip. We're doing that, Colin. We're gonna go right to that.
Hey, you came out talking about how you got strong opinions and strong takes, and you're not going to keep it PC. So I figured we might as well get out there and let everybody know that watches this show. You're not going to get a whole lot of Denny Hamlin love from this podcast here because none of us are a fan of him.
I will be fair real quick about the Denny Hamlin situation. Denny Hamlin's good for the sport. There's no doubt about it. You have to have a bad guy. You have to. It's fun to hate somebody. I remember when that person was obviously not, in recent history, that was Kyle Busch. And Kyle Busch has grown on me. I'm not saying that couldn't possibly happen with Denny Hamlin. I remember you were either an Earnhardt or a Gordon fan. I remember the days of Bodine being a little punk, Jeff Bodine being a little punk. I remember all the punks, and you had to have punks in the sport. And I like hating on the punks from time to time. I don't have too much pride to deny that.
Yeah, I'm with Marty. I'm not really afraid to tell everybody how much I dislike Hamlin, or I'll give him credit where credit's due. 2311, they're doing great. Obviously Joe Gibbs Racing, for what he's done for them, has been phenomenal. But I don't like the guy, and I'm just going to tell you that. You see his interviews, his snarkiness. He has a podcast himself. I think I'm going to kind of leave it at that. And I think as we get into this episode and many more episodes, I think we'll kind of you'll be able to understand where we're coming from. So,
yeah, you guys are going to learn with us along the way. Obviously, Denny Hamlin is a fantastic NASCAR driver, so we're not going to take anything into consideration about his poor, personality. We're just really going to focus on his driving skills here. We're really going to focus on the finer details of NASCAR. I just wanted to joke with it, lighten the mood here a little bit, get the Denny Hamlin air out of the way because we're not shy about that. Let's get past the introductions here, get through the first order of business, and let's start talking NASCAR, what you guys are really here for. And first thing we want to do is we really want to congratulate Tyler Reddick on the regular season championship in NASCAR. So Marty, why don't you tell me a little bit how Tyler Reddick got here? Tell me who he beat out. Was it a neck and neck race? Did you really see Tyler Reddick getting into this situation in this year of his career?
I'll be real honest with you. I'm obviously a Tyler Reddick fan. I love the way he drives. We watched him coming up in the Busch Series. He was one of the drivers who could consistently run the boards right up against the wall. You saw that at Homestead and places like that. I like a driver that can be that consistent lap in and lap out. But did I expect him to win a regular season championship? No. I would say he's exceeded expectations. 2311 is still a young team. I think people need to kind of you expect them to be good because you have Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin are your owners there. You have a great partnership with TRD, Toyota Racing Development. They should be squared away, but that's easier said than done. So I think he exceeded expectations. I did not expect him to win the regular season championship. I expect them to have some wins, expect them to make the playoffs. Expected them to make it to the round of 8, maybe, starting at the beginning of the season, but he's won the regular season championship, and I think that's pretty impressive. He's had wins at Kansas and Talladega, and we know he can be a road course threat, every time we show up there. So congratulations to Tyler Reddick. He did good.
I completely agree with you, Marty. 2311, this is their third season, in the Cup Series. And I mean, they've already got a regular season champion on their hands. I mean, Tyler Reddick from the beginning, coming out of Xfinity was, pretty much he's gifted. I'm going to go ahead and say that. Not to really take away from anything he's done here, but without the Indy 500 this year and the rain that North America saw everywhere that day, I think we'd be looking at possibly Kyle Larson being our regular champion for the season. Everything that went down that day was pretty unfortunate, for the Indy 500, for Hendrick Motorsports, for Kyle Larson. It was just a bad day. And yeah, I think that might be part of the reason why Tyler Reddick is where he is in the championship right now.
So would you guys say that Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan and 2311 as a business, as a team, would you say that those guys are really pumping money into this thing? Or are they really trying to get this off the ground quick? Obviously, you guys just talked about how Tyler Reddick wins the regular season championship in year 3 of 2311. What are they doing differently that makes this team so strong right out of the gate?
I think they're doing everything right, apparently. You look at the money behind it. I think Denny Hamlin, he knows how a team is supposed to operate. And they also have all the funding in the world. I don't know if you've seen their facility, Marty, but it's probably one of the top 3 in the country right now. The cars they're making and the stuff they're doing at that facility is unreal. It kind of sucks for Bubba Wallace being on 2311. He has a really good crew chief, Booty. And, I almost expected to see him in the playoffs with the way 2311's been performing this year.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything Josh said. It's funny. I remember back in the 2000s that, when Dale Earnhardt built his race car team, it was a beautiful, beautiful campus. And, they called it Garage Mahal. And 2311 is a beautiful race shop, beautiful race team. I completely agree with all of that. I think there's, 2 things here when it comes to 2311. TRD is a machine, first of all. Toyota Racing Development is a machine. They churn out reliable, fast engines constantly. Their chassis are always super sound. They're willing to go into the gray areas from time to time, get their elbows dirty, and find aerodynamic advantages. And you've always heard people in the industry talk about their simulator, how good their simulator is. And I may not be a fan of the simulator because I'll be real honest with you. I'm a fan of practice. I'm a fan of long race weekends. I'm a fan of practice. I'm a fan of people being able to really work on their vehicle. But you have to give it the times. The simulator is an important step of it, and TRD has that squared away. Another thing is like Josh said, Denny Hamlin is one of the greatest drivers in the history of NASCAR. He knows exactly what you need to do in order to be successful, except for a championship. Sorry. And Michael Jordan is not going to settle with being mediocre. I think we all know that, but it has to be reiterated that Michael Jordan grew up going to the racetrack with his dad. He's a race fan, but I've never seen. I mean, if you're out there playing marbles with Michael Jordan, he wants to be the best. Period. I don't care what you're playing. Uh, you, you know, you could be playing bocce ball in the yard, and Michael Jordan wants to be the best. That's just the way it is, and I don't think that he's willing to settle with mediocrity. So you put those three things together: TRD, being a machine, Denny Hamlin, Michael Jordan. You have a recipe to be really successful in this sport.
Yeah, I mean, let's be realistic here. Anytime you can get Michael Jordan to be a part of your team, to your point, whether it's bocce ball, ping pong, pool, basketball, no matter what that is, Michael Jordan's going to invest. He's going to be a big part in this, and he's going to make sure that these teams get out and win, no matter what that looks like. But let's go ahead and get into what we're here to talk about today. Let's talk about the playoffs a little bit. But the first order of business I want to talk about the playoffs is, you know, for the casual fans here, Josh and Marty, they look at the playoff standings. They see Kyle Larson at the top of the playoff standings. But we just talked about how Tyler Reddick won the regular season championship. So why don't we clear the air up on that for the casual fans who can really understand how this format works, what it took, how these guys got these points, and where we're at.
So Kyle Larson's going to lead us off in the playoffs because he won 4 races and won a lot of stages. So Reddick won the regular season. Larson is still your leading horse in the playoffs here. He's proven it throughout the season that he is going to have the speed. He can win anywhere. He's going to lead laps. He's going to win stages. He's going to get stage points. He's a machine. So that's how we got with Kyle Larson leading us to the playoffs. Now, when it comes to playoff format, we're going to go to the round of 16 and we're going to have 3 races. We're going to cut 4. Then we're going to go to the round of 12. We're going to have 3 races. We're going to cut 4. We're going to go to the round of the 8. We're going to have 3 races. We're going to cut 4. And then we're going to have 4 drivers that are going to duke it out for the championship at Phoenix.
Take that how you will, whether you like the playoff format or not. I particularly don't really care for 4 drivers going for it over 1 race. And I think we'll be opinionated about that as well.
Yeah, Josh. So alluding to what you said a little bit, so you're not a big fan of this playoff format. You know, what is a couple quick things that you and Marty think that the NASCAR could do differently to spice this thing up, make it more entertaining? What does that look like in your guys' opinion?
Me personally, I think if you could split it to 8 drivers and then you do it over like a three different tracks, you know, you give a super speedway, you give a speedway, and you give a road course, and then those 8 drivers, whoever does the best out of all 3 of those courses, you know, goes on to be your champion. You know, having just 4 drivers for 1 race, it just doesn't. You don't really see all the skill they have to offer. Now, you might have seen it during the course of the playoffs. It just, to me, just the 1 race thing just kind of is upsetting to me.
I agree with what Josh said. I think the thing that is unfortunate about this is we have to kind of address the elephant in the room, and that is racing's extraordinarily expensive. If you want to make a small fortune in racing, you have to start with a large one. So, sponsorship. We have 16 playoff drivers here. That's good for sponsors. That's good for Chase Briscoe, his sponsors, because in years past, you know, we started out with the Chase. There's only 10 drivers in this playoff format. So that started in 2004. So for your sponsorships, this method works well for them because people aren't spending the money in this sport like they were in the early 2000s. So that's the unfortunate elephant in the room here that unfortunately has to be addressed. Now, I am a fan of putting an entire season together and just being the best, being the most consistent. Now, unfortunately, in 2003, Matt Kenseth won 1 race and had a bunch of top 10s, and people got upset about that. So here we are. But I think that being consistent in this sport, especially with how good we are now, look how rarely you see a blown motor in this sport. It's important to be consistent. I would like to see him go back to the Winston Cup point standings. That's just my opinion. It's a pipe dream. It's never going to happen, but I could still sit here and bitch about it.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what this playoff grid looks like. I'm going to read the drivers that are in the playoffs in order from 16th to 1st, and then we're going to get into Josh and Marty's takes here. You know, maybe some snubs, guys that they really think can shock everybody in the country that are NASCAR fans and come out and win this thing. So at 16, we have Martin Truex Jr. At 15, we have Ty Gibbs. At 14, Harrison Burton. 13, Chase Briscoe. 12, Alex Bowman. 11, Daniel Suarez. 10, Austin Cindric. 9, Joey Logano. 8, Brad Keselowski. 7, Chase Elliott. 6, Denny Hamlin. 5, Ryan Blaney. 4, Byron. 3, Tyler Reddick. 2, Christopher Bell. 1, Kyle Larson. Josh, what does this look like to you? Who is your biggest snub? Who did you think would get in that is not here that we are not talking about tonight?
I'm going to hit you with this. The playoff list like that, it looks like there's a few people in there that probably shouldn't be because of you win, you're in. And I agree with Marty with what he said. A few people that got snubbed that were really showing improvements towards the end of the season, which a few of these drivers should have been driving like this all season. I got to start with Kyle Busch. Love him or hate him. What he did in the last 8 races of the year for RCR, he was really pushing it. We saw that this week. He is chasing down Briscoe. It's a shame. We saw it the week before. It's a shame. Bubba Wallace, obviously, he's always kind of in contention. And a lot of that, I feel like that falls on the driver. We talked about how good 2311 is, how good Booty is. And here's Bubba Wallace. And he took a brunt of that weight on his shoulders. He said, this is up to me at this point. You can't put it on your crews. You can't put it on the team. It's up to him as a driver at this point to get himself into the playoffs. Then we have Chris Buescher. He was a big contender. Was it beginning of the season? I forget which race it was, but Tyler Reddick got him, right? And they had a big confrontation after the race.
Darlington.
Reddick had already had the win. And did he put Buescher into the wall or what did he do?
Yeah, he went in for a dive bomb. So he was, Darlington, and we'll get into this into the later podcasts, air blocking and aerodynamics in this sport. But, Buescher was doing what he had to do to keep Reddick behind him. And Reddick gave a dive bomb, was never going to clear him, got him up into the wall. And I think he cut a left front or right rear. He cut a tire, went 2 laps down. That was a dagger through the heart.
Yeah.
Well, let's discuss that a little bit. To your guys' point, I think it's absolutely mind-boggling to me that something like this is what's holding a guy of Chris Buescher's, stature out of the playoffs. So did he handle that situation correctly? And also, let's talk about how at that point, Tyler Reddick, to Josh's point, already had to win at that point, correct? So he was already in the playoffs. This is not something that he had to win to get his 2311 race team and his car into the playoffs. He was safely in there. Do you think this was bullshit?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Josh.
I think this is what you create with the win and you're in situation. That's really all I have to say about that is, you're going to see these heightened emotions post race or guys, taking dive bombs like that. Reddick wants the points just as bad as the next guy to keep himself at the top and get a regular season championship while not cutting corners and allowing another guy to get a win. At the end of the day, all those guys are out there to win. And I think we're going to see that throughout the playoffs too.
I agree with Josh. The one thing that's changed in this sport over the years is one key factor. Back in this sport's history, if you would have done something like that when you had an entire season format to win a championship, and you would have lost somebody the championship, we've seen Ricky Rudd almost do that to Dale Earnhardt in times in the past. You better watch your back at the track going forward. Now with the win and you're in format, it gives you a little bit of grace of being like, man, I messed that guy's race up, but at least he has a win. Buescher never got that win. Buescher almost had a win at Kansas too, and Larson beat him by a chin hair. So this format has kind of forced drivers' hands to other drivers are giving them a little bit more grace. If this was a full season championship and somebody would have done a ridiculous dive bomb like that, the pit crews could have very possibly met on pit road and thrown dukes. One driver. Sorry, go ahead.
Or you have a situation like Austin Dillon that we saw 3-4 weeks ago. He's putting guys into the wall just to get that win. It didn't pay off for him because he's not in the playoffs.
Yep. And one more driver that I wanted to point. Sorry. One more driver that I wanted to point out that is in the outside looking in that I didn't really see coming into this season is Ross Chastain. The guy has been clawed with his fingernails to get everywhere he's gotten in this sport. And there you go, Colin.
Hey, I
Represent.
got the watermelon. I got the watermelon man Bush Light hat on here. We're gonna represent Ross Chastain a little bit, even though he's on the outside looking in. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I fully expected him to at least get a win or point his way into this playoff system. I did not expect him to be on the outside looking in. That one really shocked me because, like I said, he's clawed with his fingernails to get everywhere he's gotten in this sport. Every chance he's ever gotten, something ridiculous has happened. So I expected him to continue with that grit and find a way in the playoffs.
Well, so I guess the main question that kind of comes to my mind after listening to you two talk about this is, do you think Buescher handled this situation correctly? Do you think he should have took it out on the track a little bit harder? Do you think he should have had a little more confrontation? Do you think he should have caught him with the right hook? Or do you think he handled this correctly?
Catch him with the right hook, baby. I mean, hey, viewership sells.
Yeah, catch him at the hauler. I mean, I'm all for it. I'm all for catch him at the hauler. He could have done. I mean, it's hard to say. What he could have done different. It's hard for me to recall the race. I think his tires were fading anyways. I'm not too sure. Catch him at the hauler.
He was going to win. He was going to win that race, just due to the fact that Eric Jones, the season before, pretty sure it was the season before, won at Darlington, and he did not necessarily have the fastest car, but he was able to use dirty air to keep the driver behind him. I think it was going to be hard, extremely hard for Tyler Reddick to pass him cleanly. It's just my opinion, of course, but he threw a slide job in there that the slide job never even cleared his nose, man. Just doored the hell out of him. If I'm Buescher, I'm upset. And Buescher's a big dude. I wouldn't want to take a hook to the jaw from that guy. That wouldn't feel good.
That was my next question.
Strut that. Strut that, man. If you're a big dude, strut that, man. Make people afraid of you. Let them know that if you're gonna slide job me and you're gonna fail, you might get a foot up your ass.
Well, that was my next question. You know me, I'm a gambling man. Who you guys putting your money on in that fist fight? Surely Chris Buescher, right?
Oh, he's a foot taller. Come on.
Chris Buescher, yeah. He looks like he was a bricklayer or a concrete worker or something. I'm messing with that guy.
Hey, he keeps missing the playoffs. He might be a bricklayer here soon, huh?
Oh, jeez. Ouch. Wow. Jeez.
So Josh, when you look at this playoff grid, who's a guy that you truly think can make a run at this thing?
I really think there's about 3 guys that I'm looking at that could make a run at this thing that are kind of underdogs. I'm looking at Joey Logano. He has wins at every single one of these tracks except for one, all throughout the playoffs. You can't count out Chase Elliott. That's a Hendrick car. He's a hell of a driver. He's a champion. He's won championship in the past. He, if he can keep his legs under him, he's going to be fine. William Byron is a problem in this first stage of the playoffs. He is a problem. I also think we need to look out for these guys that aren't in the bubble. Kyle Busch is going to get a win this postseason, and I think all these other guys need to look out for him.
I like it. Without going too deep into my picks, if I'm going to sit there and kind of give you somebody who maybe to look out for, I agree with Elliott for the reason that, man, that guy's consistent. I just don't see him making very many mistakes, and when he does, he just always seems to recover. Another one to keep your eye on, and this is just a personal thing. I like this guy's swagger. I like the way that, he shows up in a room. He's already been there for 5 minutes, even though he's quiet. That's Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman, you always hear the rumors about this guy. He's the weakest link at Hendrick. He's this, he's that. People forget, before he broke his back, he was leading the points that season. And then, this car with the rear end and how stiff it is and how rigid it is. It's giving people's concussions. People are breaking their backs. People are getting hurt. He got banged up. He got hurt. We saw what happened to Chase Elliott when he got hurt. That wasn't even on the track. So Bowman has swagger. You always see him. Reminds me of Tony Stewart back in the day a little bit on the fact that he always has a new girl to track, it seems like. He's always posting stuff on Twitter, in the back of a boat, making out with some gal, him and his dogs. I like the guy. And another guy who they could kind of, splash a little bit here, and it's because it's his swan song, and that's Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex Jr. has just always done things right. He's always been at the track. He's always been one of the nicer guys. I mean, he'll get pissed off, but he's not out there wrecking people. He's not out there dooring people. He's not out there doing slide jobs that don't work. I mean, I'm sure you could go back and find some races here where that stuff happened. And I mean, I'm sure he's going to be upset because he wrecked on like lap 2 at Darlington, but he wants to go out on a strong note. So I wouldn't sleep on Martin Truex Jr.
So, how critical is it to get out to an important start at this Atlanta race? We sit here and look, it's a long playoffs, right? We have quite a few races in this thing. How critical is it to make sure that you get you and your team out front early, get these points built up? What's it look like if you fall behind here?
At Atlanta, just to go into what kind of track Atlanta is, it's narrow, it's heavy drafting. I think we all know that this Gen 7 car drafts like shit. It's a very difficult track to maneuver around with it being so narrow all the time. It was reconfigured back in 2022, and that's why I was kind of rooting for Byron here because he has 2 wins on this new reconfig. A few things to look out for other than it being narrow and drafting. I would say you got to look out for, Suarez, but he only won by the most narrow margin in NASCAR history.
Yeah, this is going to be tough. This is a nuts first round, in my opinion, with Atlanta, a road course in Bristol. This is, you have to remember that Brad Keselowski came out of Daytona at Atlanta earlier this season. He's halfway through February and he's like 36 in points. This same thing can happen to you here. So I mean, if I'm one of the premier drivers that are one of your favorites here, if I'm a Kyle Larson, if I'm a Christopher Bell, if I'm a Blaney, I'm nervous. I need to come out of Atlanta clean, and coming out of Atlanta clean is not going to be easy, in my opinion. You're gonna have to watch your pitch strategy. You're gonna have to make sure you don't lose track position. It's definitely one of those scenarios where you're gonna want to have to stay up front and try your best to stay out of trouble, unless Todd Gilliland drags his brake and tries to let Michael McDowell in again on like lap 3, right in front of the pack and wrecks 12 people. It's possible. You have to watch out for the big one here, just like you do at any other play track.
Yeah, Marty. So talking about the big one. When you say the big one, what does that entail necessarily? And is this track necessarily known for monster wrecks like that, monster pileups? Some NASCAR fans look forward to seeing the pileups. I don't think any of us 3 here look forward to seeing the pileups. We like to watch these guys race. We like to watch the best car go win that race. So what does the crash effect and probability look like at this Atlanta Speedway?
Sure. So, I mean, if you go back and you watch races from Atlanta in the past, before 2022, you're going to be a little confused about what we're talking about here. So 2022, they reconfigured the track. They reconfigured the track before then, but it was ready for 2022. They reconfigured the track. They made it narrower. They made the turns a little bit more swooping and tighter, and they're going to use the restrictor plate, quote unquote, package that they use at Daytona and Talladega here. And what that does is that scrunches everybody up like you would have at Talladega, like you would have at Daytona. And that really makes your margin of error so much smaller because, hey, the difference between first and 32nd is, maybe a matter of 2 seconds at a track like this. You don't spread out at all. You have to use the draft. You're going to be beaten on the bumper in front of you to try to get your line. If you're on the inside or outside, to get your line going. I think even earlier in the fall race, you even saw 3 wide a couple times, which when this track was first reconfigured, you didn't see that much. And as this track surface starts to wear, you're going to struggle with grip. You saw it earlier in February. People have to start lifting all of a sudden. That can create a moment in the corner where you can get into somebody pretty hard. And if you don't have to lift in, you can wad up a bunch of race cars.
Hopefully it happens at the back with Recky Spinhouse Jr., And we don't have a big one. We have a big one in the back.
Big one in the back rarely happens, but hey, I hope it does happen. And you got to watch out for old Ricky Spinhouse Jr.
Oh, Ricky, man. Ricky's just catching some shade. I love it. Hey, so let's talk about something really cool that I am super excited, over the moon to do. We're going to try to get this across Deep Threat Sports Network as a whole. But hey, Marty, Josh, and myself, we are going to come on this show every week throughout the playoffs and throughout the regular season next year. But what we're going to do is we're going to pick our race winner. And whichever one of us three has the worst car that finishes, hey, we're going to take our money and we're going to donate it to a charity of our choice. Something that I take a lot of pride in. I really love giving back. I really love helping people out when they need help. So the charity of my choice is the Ronald McDonald House. And why I'm choosing the Ronald McDonald House is when my son, mine and my wife's second child was born, we spent some time in the NICU, and the nearest NICU to our house was about an hour and a half away. So it wasn't a drive that my wife was willing to make all the time to get back and forth to see our baby boy. So we stayed up there, and fortunately for us, the Ronald McDonald House reached out to us and helped us out. I take a lot of pride in that. I appreciate what they do, and if I could always give back, I will always give back. So Marty, tell me what your charity of choice is for this season.
My charity of choice is going to be March of Dimes. So I know you've been in this boat before, Colin. I was born 3 months premature. I wasn't in very good shape. I was lucky. I pulled through. My sisters had friends who had preemie babies that unfortunately did not make it. So I have a soft spot in my heart. I'll admit I'm a little selfish about it, but mine's going to be March of Dimes. I'm for preemie babies.
It's going to be the Special Olympics. As I said earlier in the broadcast, I am a big fan of the outdoors, and I'm a big fan of snowboarding. And the only way I see special needs children being able to participate in winter sports, something that I really, really care about and I'm passionate about, is through the Special Olympics and what they do for these special needs. It's something I'm really interested in, and honestly, it's kind of how I'd like to spend my retired years, is volunteering and donating my time through that. So
I just first, talking about things like this, fellas, this gives me chills. We're all close friends here. We're all here for each other. I just want to let you guys know, love you guys. Anything you guys need, we're always here for each other. And I appreciate you guys stepping in and doing something like this. This speaks volume to me, and I take a lot of pride in this. In all seriousness, I'm a huge fan of this idea, fellas, and I love what we're doing here. But so let's talk about race winners. Josh, give me your Atlanta Motor Speedway race winner.
Like I was saying earlier today, I think Logano's going to be the guy. I think he's going to show force, and he's going to be the guy. Penske has a lot riding on him in the number 2 car. I think Logano's the guy this weekend. It's a stretch. Right. It's a stretch. I know it's a stretch, but hey, I like to take the hot takes.
Oh yeah, that's fine. I mean, hey, yeah, I know he's not statistically past couple races.
Hey, we love hot takes. We love hot takes.
Yeah, yes we do. Yes we do. Hey, but he's won here in the past. It's a good pick. I'm going to pick another past winner. I'm going to pick Chase Elliott. I think that if I'm Chase Elliott, I'm NASCAR's most popular driver, and I have a little chip on my shoulder coming into these playoffs because you hear everybody talking about Larson, Byron. Unfortunately, you don't hear too many people talking about Bowman, but I think that if I'm Chase Elliott, I'm wanting to go out there and kind of reclaim my stake in the ground here a little bit, plant my flag a little bit, come out here and say, hey, fellas, don't forget about me. I am a past champion. I want to win here. So I'm going with Chase Elliott.
Yeah, fellas, great picks. Obviously, all you NASCAR fans out there, lean with Marty and Josh on this. They're much more intelligent than me in this avenue, so follow them. But hey, my pick, I'm going to go William Byron. Marty just threw a little bit here. We talk about Kyle Larson, William Byron a lot. Hey, I'm going to fall in suit here. I'm going to go William Byron. Nothing special here on my details. I just think William Byron comes in here and gets it done. Been a little bit on a cold streak here. Started out really hot this season. Going to look to get this thing turned around real quick right here off the rip in the playoffs. I do want to make a correction real quick. I did talk about us donating to these charities. The overall winner of this podcast will donate all the winnings to their charity of choice. I just want to stand corrected on that real quick so we are very clear with you guys on what we're going to do in that situation. So now, Josh, make your round of 16 elimination picks.
Okay, so this is really where Marty and I disagree on a few things. I was taking notes when you were picking, who to look out for, because I'm eliminating half of them. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Alex Bowman. I do not think he's going to make it through.
Kick him out, Josh. Show his ass who's boss here. Come on.
He's gone. I just don't think he's going to do it. He's had a rough go since Pocono. It's not going to happen. Harrison Burton, on paper, The paper don't lie. Good for the Wood brothers, the 100th win. Good for Harrison Burton to do that in front of his dad. You know, it was an emotional moment. You know, it was a good thing for NASCAR. Really feel for the kid. You know, he lost his ride for next year. I'm excited for his win. Doesn't belong in the playoffs. I'm sorry. Martin Truex Jr.
Ouch. Ouch.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And if I want anybody to win this championship, it's Martin Truex Jr. It's his final year. He's a hell of a driver. Nobody sits in that Bass Pro 19 better than him. You know, Johnny Morris is crying thinking about it. He's really been struggling since the All-Star race. He really has been. Whether it's engine failures, is there something going on with the crew? I don't know. And he announced a mid-season retirement. In the past, we've seen a lot of guys that are going to retire. When they do that, they announce it at the beginning of the season, going into the season, it's going to be my final season. What's pushing him out? Because he's a better driver than 3/4 of the field. So I don't understand. And I feel like this, with the way he was going into the playoffs, you know, he helped, what was he, -1 point going in? You know, he's 16th place. I don't remember the point standings, but
yeah, he's just one of him and Gibbs were just the two that didn't win, essentially. Yeah. Which is, I understand why you would pick him. Hurts a little bit, but hey.
Yeah. Last one, Daniel Suarez. He's not going to make it. His win at Atlanta was, like I said earlier, it was the closest finish in NASCAR history. Unless he can win again in Atlanta this weekend, I really don't see him going on any further. That's my opinion.
Hey man, I get it. Those are, I understand your picks. We're going to agree on one thing, and that is Harrison Burton is not going to make it out of the round of 16. If Harrison Burton makes it out of the round of 16, it's going to be like on par with like the 1980 men's Olympic team when the Team USA beat the Red Army. I mean, hey man, I'm all for a good story, but let's be realistic here. So Harrison Burton's going out in 16th for me. So 15th is going to be Suarez. He is a road course threat, not only Atlanta, but he is a road course threat. So it's hard for me to pick him because he's a road course threat. He'd easily win at Watkins Glen, but I just don't see it happening. 14th is going to be Cindric for me. He is also, he's won the Daytona 500. He can run at these drafting tracks, and people forget he was dominant in the Xfinity Series at road courses. Dominant. He was so good in the Xfinity Series at road courses. He can very easily go out and win Watkins Glen. I don't think it's going to happen. And then 13th for me is Briscoe. This is not a shot at Briscoe. This is more of a shot at SHR, Stewart Haas Racing, a little bit. And just kind of the 14 team. I'm happy they got their win at Darlington. Chase Briscoe's a good dude. We know that was an emotional win for him because, you know, hey, he had a very unfortunate set of circumstances in the Xfinity Series when he beat Kyle Busch at that exact racetrack. It was very emotional. I want the guy to do well, but I do not see him making it out of the round of 16. And, you know, speaking of miracles, if you can somehow make it to the championship 4, Phoenix is one of his best tracks. I'd watch out for him. But it's just not going to happen, man.
Yeah, so let me go against the grain a little bit here since nobody showed Harrison Burton some love in this round of 16. I have Harrison Burton advancing. I'm going to ask the experts here, but is there anybody in this playoff format that has something more to prove than Harrison Burton? You know, this guy needs a ride, good driver. He's got something to prove. I got Harrison Burton advancing. But the 4 that I do have, you know, missing the cut in the round of 16, Daniel Suarez, I agree with you guys on this one. Chase Briscoe, Ty Gibbs, and Austin Cindric. I have those 4 drivers not advancing to the round of 12. And, you know, am I more confident in my picks than your guys' picks? Absolutely not. But, hey, we're going to keep track here. We're going to keep a spreadsheet together, tell you fans every week, every round of the playoffs, how we're looking, who's still alive, how things are advancing. Marty, let's get to the real fun stuff. Who you got in your final 4?
I've had to think about this one for a while. This is a tough one. And really, there's so much variability in the playoffs this year. So my final 4 is going to be Blaney, Elliott, Larson, Bell. That's going to be my final four.
Josh, who you got?
That's a good looking final four. We have a few of the same picks there. So I'm going with Larson, obviously, fan favorite, Hendrick Motorsports, Yahoo, number 5. I got Tyler Reddick going. And obviously, we have not talked about this other driver much at all, Christopher Bell. What a standout year. What a standout year he's having. And I feel like he has a lot of potential in the future. And he's the future of the sport. Let's call a spade a spade. And I picked a wild card because I like the wild cards. You always got to kind of root for an underdog, who's been struggling throughout the season. I got Joey Logano in the final four.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's a bold take. I know.
Fellas, I love this. I love that we're all a little different here. You're going to see me with you guys in unison across the board. We're all going to take Kyle Larson here. I think he's the best driver in this sport. I think he's the best driver on planet Earth, in my opinion, from what I watch. I'm not real big into all these other motorsports like I am NASCAR, but this guy's legit as it gets. Put your money on him every week. I promise you're probably going to come out ahead at the end of this season. But the remaining 3 drivers I have is Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, and what absolutely blows my mind from the both of you is that nobody's talking about William Byron to make a push at this Final Four. So I'm going to go ahead and 5-star lock up William Byron to make the Final Four. And when I kick both of y'all's asses and he's in the Final Four, this is going to be the laughing stock of this show, boys. William Byron to the Final Four. You know what? Piss on it. William Byron to win the championship. That's my championship pick. You heard it right here. Kiss my ass, both of you. I'm a William Byron fan. William Byron to the checkered flag. Championship pick. Let's get it going.
I'm gonna have to write all this down to hold you accountable. But go ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Harrison Burton making it out the round of 16. I mean, dude, go right. That happens.
Don't keep this shit chalk, boys. We're here for hot takes and bold takes, baby. That's what I'm here for.
If that happens, right, go buy a scratch-off ticket, buy a lottery ticket. I mean, you're on a heater from hell.
If that happens, you don't need us for the podcast. It's all yours, bud. You just hand out predictions every week.
Take the reins.
Giving jobs away before we get too far going. What are you guys more shocked about? My Harrison Burton pick or my William Byron championship pick here?
With Harrison Burton, man. I mean, hey, dude, I love his dad, Jeff Burton.
I don't have Harrison Burton in the Final Four, Marty. I have Harrison Burton make it to the round of 12. Sun shines on dog's ass every once in a while. He won a race this year.
You just didn't have him get eliminated.
I'll have to go back and look, but I think Has Growler might have had more points rate than Harrison Burton before he won that damn race, man. I love Wood Brothers. I love the 21 car. It's iconic. I love it. It's awesome. Elliott Sadler got his first win in that. Ryan Blaney got his first win in that car.
He's got something to prove. He's got something to prove. I'm putting up a fight for this guy. Hey, this guy's got something to prove.
Hey, so does Grandpa's boy Ty Gibbs. He's got something to prove. I would put him miles ahead of old Harrison Burton. I like the guy.
Ty Gibbs, round of 16. See ya. Harrison Burton's going to lock that spot up.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and give you my championship pick then, dude, because I didn't really tell you my championship pick, and it pains me to say this because I'll be upfront about this, man. I'm a Kyle Larson fanboy. I love the dude. He can drive anything. He's awesome. I loved him when he was in the Busch Series. I mean, I just love everything about him, but I'm going to go with the poor man's Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell.
So Marty, you and I haven't discussed any of who we were going to pick for this, stuff like that. Colin, we haven't talked about it at all either. And I totally have to agree with Marty with his Christopher Bell pick. You know, he's been really good all season long. He's been consistent, the consistency, and that's what you need to win the playoffs. That's what you need to become a champion in NASCAR nowadays. And he has just been consistent all year long. So
yeah, and one more thing to add about Christopher Bell that I think kind of gets slept on a little bit is he's good at the flat tracks, man. I mean, if he makes it to Phoenix, I would be you got to watch out for him. I mean, I know he's been in the championship before and hasn't won, but once again, I feel like he has something to prove. I'm a Kyle Larson fanboy, but I think he gets tired of playing second fiddle to Kyle Larson. And, you know, he kind of beat up on Kyle Larson in the dirt tracks for a while there. So he's my pick.
So let me ask you boys this. To get a little bit of separation here from a Christopher Bell. One of you two, just tell me who your runner-up would be. Who do you have? Who do you have sniffing his ass coming up to the checkered flag here to go ahead and take that second place? That maybe can make a push at the first place spot.
I gotta go. I'm gonna say Larson or Reddick. I'm gonna say Larson and Reddick. They're gonna be. I think your top three going into the playoffs are gonna be your top three in the finals in Phoenix. I think those are gonna be the guys that you're gonna have to watch out for in Phoenix. And you know, I hate on this playoff, the strategy, the way they do this. NASCAR does it, but you know, if those are the top three going into Phoenix, they work. You know. So,
Yep. And if I had to give you a second one, this guy's made me eat crow all season long. He made me eat crow last season because I thought he was a little overrated. That's Ryan Blaney. I think Ryan Blaney could repeat. And man, I'll be honest, man, I was not. He won that championship, and he took that championship last year. And I thought he was mediocre all season long, and I thought he'd been kind of mediocre. He hadn't been meeting my expectations, which, I mean, what the hell does that mean? But hey, I set the bar high, and like I said, I'm opinionated, and I think that he could go out there, and I think he could win it again.
Listen, fellas, we're gonna keep track of all these things. We're gonna keep track of my hot takes and how much everybody's hating on Harrison Burton. We're really gonna laugh that guy finds the round of 8. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm happy to do this with you all. Marty, Josh, you guys are spectacular at this NASCAR avenue. Love doing this with you guys. For all you fans that are out here rolling with us, we're pounding the pavement. We're going to continue to improve week after week. These guys are going to be your go-to guys. Any questions, any comments, any concerns. If you think Christopher Bell sucks and both of these guys are going to get it so wrong, let these two know. Give them an earful. If you're rocking with me with Harrison Burton and William Byron, hey, let me know. I would love to hear that. Once again, that's Marty. That's Josh. We love riding with you guys. Hey, until next time, let's do it again, fellas.